Everyone knows the shadow of Jack the Ripper, but decades before his reign, another crime shook Victorian London to its core. In May 1838, the fog rolled thick through Bermondsey, and behind one quiet door, the city would discover a nightmare. Her name was Eliza Grimwood, a young woman just 26 years old, living in a modest house on Waterloo Road. She was known for her beauty, her charm, and for the men of influence who visited her. London's whispers followed her everywhere. On the night of May 25th, she was seen with a gentleman caller. Neighbors remembered the sound of footsteps, fading into silence. The next morning, Eliza did not rise. Her maid entered the room and screamed. Eliza lay lifeless upon her bed, her throat cut, her chamber soaked in blood. The horror spread instantly. Crowds gathered outside her door. Whispers turned into panic. For Londoners, this was more than a single crime. It was a mirror of their city's darkness. The newspapers descended like vultures. Headlines screamed horror in Bermondsey. The story sold faster than any in years. The police, inexperienced and overwhelmed, stumbled through the investigation. Evidence was clumsily handled. Suspicion fell on her gentleman callers, wealthy men, politicians, actors, but none would admit to visiting that night. One name appeared again and again, a man of influence. But whispers alone could not hold him. Eliza's family demanded justice, but the law was powerless against powerful men. The press fueled wild theories. Was it a jealous lover? A madman roaming the streets? Crowds gathered at the coroner's inquest, hoping to see the guilty exposed. But the jury returned, confused and empty. The verdict, murder by a person unknown. London gasped. No one would be punished. For weeks, Bermondsey froze in fear. Women avoided the streets at night. Men glanced over shoulders in the fog. The murder touched every class, from the poorest worker to the wealthy who feared scandal. And always, the newspapers profited. Each lurid detail printed in ink, sold to a city hungry for fear. The crime scene became a spectacle. Curious crowds stared at the house, as if evil itself lived inside its walls. But as weeks passed, no new evidence appeared, and London's attention began to fade. For Eliza's family, there was no fading, only silence and loss. Her name became a cautionary tale, whispered in drawing rooms and shouted in taverns. The Bermondsey Horror was etched into the city's memory. But justice never came. The murder revealed something deeper, that London's darkness was not in shadows, but in men protected by power. The case embarrassed Scotland Yard and revealed the weakness of Victorian law, a wound to authority that bled for years. Writers seized on the tale, turning Eliza's death into novels, ballads, and rumors. Her tragedy became entertainment for the working poor. Her death symbolized their own vulnerability. The city itself was unsafe. For the wealthy elite, it was a scandal to bury, proof of their secret sins. As decades passed, Eliza's story slipped into obscurity, but the fear it revealed never left. Because in 1888, when another killer stalked Whitechapel, London remembered Bermondsey. Jack the Ripper became infamous, but Eliza Grimwood
Read all about it.
was his forgotten shadow. Her case showed the blueprint. A woman slain brutally. A city panicked. And no justice delivered. The parallels were undeniable and chilling. History had repeated itself. Today, the house on Waterloo Road is gone. But the ghost of her story lingers. In archives and in whispers. Every page of Victorian crime bears her name. A queen of tragedy, not of power. Eliza Grimwood lived in beauty, died in horror, and was abandoned by justice. Her story is not just about one night, but about a city unprepared for the darkness it had created. Before the Ripper, before London's streets turned infamous, there was Bermondsey. Her murder was the first scream of a century of fear, and London never forgot it. No killer was ever named, no motive confirmed, only endless speculation. But the silence speaks louder than any confession ever could. London was guilty too, because in every shadowed alley, Every whispered rumor, the Bermondsey Horror lives on. And so we ask, was Eliza Grimwood the first victim of a city destined for terror?